Right,
Wow.
I was on mute that whole time.
The chat.
Yeah, right. All right, well, everyone knows. All right, anyway, am I on mute now? No, I guess I was.
No, I hear you.
Audio's on. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, we're all muted except for you.
Okay, and I'm just going to say a few words first. I'm going to read them. Want to open with a few words about the election, from which we're all reeling. And it's easy to be bitter and discouraged. This is the third election in the last 24 years in which a Democratic president fixed the mess left by his Republican predecessor. And it's the third time that he's been unable to pass the torch to his Democratic successor. Clinton created 23 million jobs, left 3 straight annual surpluses, but the media decided they'd rather have a beer with W than Gore. And they cravenly abdicated their responsibility to challenge Bush's lies about the impact of his economic proposals. What happened, as a sign at one of the first anti-Iraq marches put it, drunken frat boy drives economy into a ditch and starts war to cover up. Barack Obama saved the country from a second Great Depression and presided over the longest post-war World War II expansion, but that wasn't enough to satisfy the American voter. Hillary's loss resulted from a perfect storm, but right at the top, alongside James Comey misogyny and a badly run campaign, was the craven and clueless coverage of the corporate media that pointed to the need to update James Carville's meme. It's the economy, stupid. Rather, it's the media, stupid, because that's who tells people how the economy is. Biden's economic and legislative achievements are unrivaled, but the media's obsession with inflation turned the most effective president of my lifetime into what the New York Times politely calls an unpopular president. And there's no denying the fact that Democrats' messaging, to use the technical term, sucks. So now Donald Trump inherits the strongest economy since Bill Clinton left office. Inflation fell to 3% from a high of 9.1 within a year and hovered there for another year until the Fed declared victory and began lowering the interest rate. The Biden administration achieved the soft landing that most economists believe impossible without a recession. By contrast, it took Ronald Reagan 5 years to bring inflation below 3%, a fact I've never seen mentioned in any article headlined "Worst Inflation in 40 Years." For those of us fortunate enough to be largely shielded from the economic carnage that Trump will unleash, those of us already on Social Security and Medicare, there's a temptation to let those who didn't vote or who voted for Trump enjoy the rewards of their own ignorance. But that's not how Democrats behave. That's not what FDR would want. Or as Samuel Beckett said, ever tried, ever failed, no matter, try again, fail better. So that's where we are now. And I am going to propose, and we'll take orders for a new T-shirt that says, "We don't vote, we lose." Okay? So tonight, unfortunately, Carrie Howitt hurt her back in the middle of a hearing today. So she's resting up, but who knows? But yeah, but we have instead of passing the torch, we have our new public defender, and it was as David said before. At least we won one, and that one was a big one. Okay, because the alternative, yeah. Okay, Dan, take it away.
Well, on that somber note,
Yeah, right.
it's been a rough month. It really has. In the office, we decided to, because we're, as you can imagine, mostly like-minded people and fairly liberal for the work that we do. So we did invite anyone who wanted to come, but nobody had to, obviously, just sort of have like a little venting session and a crying session and because it affects us in other ways, even with our work. We worry about what happens when the laws become even more draconian. What happens when the sentencing statutes get even worse? What happens when all these horrible judges get appointed? It affects our clients, right? Our poor, truly poor clients who ultimately suffer the consequences. Like Michael said, a lot of us, our lives may not change that dramatically, right? Because we're lucky. We're fortunate to be in the economic status that we are. We're fortunate to um, not be a migrant, an immigrant or migrant, not be sort of poor, not be mentally ill on the streets. But it's those folks that are going to suffer the most. And that's what, of course, is the most scary to our work. So we had our venting session. We cried, we yelled, we did whatever. But then we got to get back going again because they need us. They need us desperately. And so that's what we're doing. I think we had some other victories locally. We got the county commissioner that we had hoped for. Flores beat Barnett. Barnett, I don't know if you guys knew, he was the head of the Republican Party here locally in Palm Beach County before he was appointed by
Oh, right, that's right, by DeSantis, right.
So that was kind of a big deal. I was nervous because, the county commission has been mostly Democratic, or the majority of it's been Democratic for many, many years, but it wasn't when Barnett took over for Kerner.
No, no, it's mostly Republican.
Yeah, when Barnett took over, yeah.
Yeah.
Now it's sort of
Fourth
swung
grade.
the other way again. So that's a good thing. I do believe that the most important politics are the local politics, and the local government can affect our lives more than sort of what happens in DC sometimes. And so that was a big deal. And then, I think there was some other good victories here locally, but I was fortunate enough to where I did not have a Republican challenger in November.
Well,
Well, right, not a stated Republican. People ask me all the time, like, how did you get so lucky not to have a Republican or a stated Republican challenger? And I said, well, Republicans don't really want to be public defenders.
That's right.
That's really the reality of it. So I got to kind of sit back and watch. But it was obviously the primary, and Nancy was out there, and you all were out there. Marty was out there with us. Obviously, you could see something much different in the August election versus November. I was stationed in Jupiter at the polling sites, very conservative part of the county, of course, and they were coming out. Thankfully, I think they were voting for me. But I knew in August, because we did well in Jupiter and Gardens and Wellington and the acreage, and that's become more and more Republican. But you could tell there was a vibe happening, and it made me awfully nervous about November. They were showing up. So I wasn't ultimately that surprised, unfortunately, especially in Palm Beach County. But we have a lot of work to do. You know, what's interesting is sometimes our clients, who you would think would be Democrats, maybe if they're anything, because they are sort of less fortunate, a lot of them like Trump. So you have to ask yourself why. Why do these folks who, if they sort of thought about it rationally, probably wouldn't be Republican favored people? I think what it comes down to is, at least from just my speaking to them and some others, is that when you're dissatisfied generally, when you're unhappy, when you're feeling left behind, you're going to just swing the other way.
Yeah.
You're just going to swing
Punch
the other way.
down
Yeah.
instead of punching up. Yeah.
So like you have to ask, I've read a number of articles about this because I am so curious about it, but all those Obama voters that then
Yeah.
turned around and voted for Trump, multiple times now, it's bewildering to me. It doesn't make sense, right? Other than, and this is where I go back, is like they're just constantly looking for something different because they're
Mhm.
so unhappy.
Right.
And
Looking for
they're
somebody
just
to
willing to
blame.
take a chance on whoever's not in session. My guess, and I'm no expert, but my guess is in 2 years,
Yeah.
it'll flip right back
Yeah, I think it will.
in the Senate and the House, which
Yeah.
will leave, I think, the president pretty impotent. We'll see how much damage he can do in the next couple years. And then my guess is that in 4 years, the Democrats will be in a much better position.
Yeah.
Because like I think we all, like Michael says so eloquently, he's not gonna do anything great for anybody except himself. I think that's always his main motivation, right? Is how do I make the most money for myself and my family, and how do I stay out of jail or prison?
Yeah, or the loony bin. I mean,
Yeah.
they're, you know,
Huh.
I really don't think he's gonna make it through 2 years.
Yeah.
The 26th Amendment, no, they're gonna, and especially, I think if he does something that irritates the Project 2025 people or the permanent government, they will get Vance to convene the cabinet. I mean, it's easy enough. The guy is nuts.
Well, I guess I read today.
What?
The cabinet needs a new name.
Well, I guess I read today that Matt Gates,
Yeah, they
Withdrew.
Bondi.
he withdrew. Well, that didn't take long.
Bondi now.
Yeah, well, at least she's getting out of Florida. Well, I'll take that. Small win. I know, but Matt Gates is especially crazy.
He wants to be governor.
So anyway, but I'm happy to talk about, so I think at the local level, I'm excited. I'm hopeful that maybe we can have some real conversations about what's wrong in our legal system. I don't think our legal system is that different than our society as a whole. You've got your haves and you've got your have-nots. And the divide is growing larger and larger between the two. Bernie Sanders talks about this all the time. And I think you see that in the courts too, right? You see people are getting poorer and poorer. The people that are stuck in jail are the ones who cannot afford bail. They cannot afford the bond. Those that are wealthier who commit sometimes much more serious and heinous crimes, but if they have the money, they can bond out. You've got a guy in jail on a possession of cocaine. He's only hurting himself, right? He's not selling it. He's not doing anything violent. He's stuck in jail because he can't post $1,000 bond. But then you've got the guy who's wealthier and much more well off, who's committing fraud on hundreds of people, who has a bond of $1 million, and he goes through a bondsman and he can post the bond. So those inequities are getting worse. They're not getting better. And then at the same time, the racial inequities are getting worse. The disparities are getting worse and not better. And luckily or thankfully in Palm Beach County, our data has gotten much better so we can see it. And it's very clear to anybody who cares to look at it, that now I think our jail is about 6-1 African American to white, when it used to be much more. I remember, what's the percentage of Black people in our county?
Yeah.
It's what, 12%? I don't think it's even 20. I think it's around 15%. Yeah, 15 or 18%. So do the math. If there's 5 times more Black people in our jail, but they only make up a fifth of our population, what's going on?
Yeah.
So I encourage, and you guys don't need to hear this from me, but I'll say it anyway. I hope our residents, I hope our constituents will continue to ask these hard questions of our officials, our sheriff, our county commissioners, people who should care about those disparities and equities because they are alive and well here. But my pledge is that every day I'll go to work. That'll be something I'll try to attack and tackle every day. Because I want to be proud of our legal system. I want to be proud of our courts here in Palm Beach County. And I know if we don't attack those issues, I'm not going to feel too good about it. So our lawyers are dedicated to that cause, and I am too. And we're gonna keep taking it on, no matter what people say about us or attack us in the media and all that nonsense that we got during the campaign, which was just crazy. All that stuff was just crazy. But I'm very appreciative of all your support, and I'm so thankful that the residents of the county kind of understood that no public defenders are supposed to fight for their clients. We're not supposed to like work with the police and the prosecutors. We're not supposed to be a big team. That was a really scary message that was being sent out by not just my opponent, but some of the people that were supporting him.
Oh, yeah.
That's the idea that the message was, if you want to feel safe, then vote for a public defender who's not going to advocate for his clients. Well, that's not, I don't think, what our founders and framers had in mind when they created the court system the way they did. But it's a warning sign. It's an alarm. Those types of messages, they do it for a reason. It must work, or at least must work with some people. So
Fear.
yeah,
That's what they sell.
it is scary. And I'll tell you, like, I'm new to campaigning. I was new to running for stuff. There was some really good about it. I met a lot of great people like all of you. I was so happy and comforted to know that so many people cared about our legal system and the public defender's office. But there was also some yucky stuff that I witnessed, that Ellen probably has witnessed for more years than I have. And Democrats are not completely always on the up and up either. And I think it's important that when you see something that's unethical, when you see something that's not right, we have to speak up. Because if we stoop to that level, then we're no better than the other side. Some really weird stuff, you know. Some just deals and money going back and forth. And this is beyond my expertise, but the dark money that moves around our political system with these PACs. You guys know what PACs are? Yeah. It's pretty frightening. All of a sudden, within a 24-hour period, a Republican candidate for state attorney can have $750,000 dumped into his account by a few people. That's pretty crazy. And those things can affect elections, right? You probably saw advertisements on television nonstop from certain candidates. Yeah. Why was that? Well, they could afford that. My understanding is that having 30 seconds, 30-second spots costs about like $40,000, something like that. So if you saw a candidate on TV all the time, do the math. That's millions of dollars. And it's not easy to track where that money is coming from. I tried and I couldn't figure it out because the disclosure laws are very loose. And there's not a lot of watchdogs. Our local media, unfortunately, the newspapers are been decimated. Their staffs are just a fraction of what they used to be. I think the Palm Beach Post used to have 40, 50, 60 people working full time. I think they're down to 20. So they're not out and about. There's some other now offshoots of doing pretty good research and stuff, but I was surprised during the endorsement process that there wasn't a lot of fact checking. So a candidate gets to go into this endorsement meeting with the Palm Beach Post or the Sun Sentinel or whatever, say whatever they want to say. And I'm thinking, I know that's not true. Like, I just know that's not true, even in not my race. But there's just not a lot of resources right now to sort of check on those things. So it can be really kind of slimy when you sort of think about it as a whole. The money, the lack of local media doing sort of the background and the fact checking. Thankfully, it didn't work, but you would hope in the national races that type of fact checking that does exist would make a difference, but clearly, the US citizens did not care about the same things that, those fact checkers cared about.
Well, and then the fact checkers, I mean, that drove me crazy every time the Times would do a fact check
Yeah.
on the debate. And there would be, because they had to balance it, there would be 5 things that Trump said and 5
Yeah.
things that Harris said. And the 5 things that Trump said, 4 of them were flat out false, and the other one was needs context. And on Harris's side, needs context, not entirely true, and maybe there's one that is false, and that's fair and balanced reporting, and no one's going to get mad
They don't read it.
What?
The rest, only we read.
Well, that's what David says. When I get mad at the Times, I said, he said nobody reads it. So I'm working on an open letter to A.G. Sulzberger saying, my cousin and I are having this debate. I'm really mad at you, for what you're doing. But he says, you don't matter anymore. So
Good luck with that one.
And I don't know what Ellen thinks. I wonder how much endorsements really matter anymore. The
Taylor Swift didn't endorse you when you.
yeah. Well, like for a good example, the young man who ran for state attorney, the Republican ran for state attorney. He didn't seek out or get one endorsement, not one. That was his game plan. The young lady who ran for state attorney is from the Democratic side, Alexia Cox, got every endorsement in the freaking world. That was clearly part of her. Stern came up with what? I think she won by less than a half a percentage point. It was that close.
oh my.
So it makes you wonder how much that stuff matters. If people are in the old days, I still remember, my grandfather and my dad even going on and looking to see, well, who did the union support?
Right.
Who did the union support? That really mattered to them. Who did the union support? Maybe who did the teachers support? That stuff really mattered to my grandfather. I don't think that stuff carries the same weight that it used to.
Yeah, like Ryan Boyle ran for mayor here. He got a gazillion endorsements.
Yeah, I don't.
Sure.
Yeah.
One thing I think that worked for me, worked for our campaign was, I don't know, maybe you tell me, but I thought that we spoke about issues that mattered. I thought we weren't political. We didn't go negative. We just said, hey, this is why this job's important, and this is why I think I'm the most qualified for it. And I hope you believe that I'm authentic and genuine about my passion for the work. And I think that worked for us.
It did.
But I think what I saw, even with some Democrats, is it's too much of the political mumbo jumbo. Let people into your hearts, show them who you really are and then see how it goes. But you can't, and take some positions on some issues. Your political theme can't be, I'm going to be the best state legislator you'll ever see, and I'm going to cure all that ails you. I don't think that messaging works. It's not real. It can't happen. What's that? I don't know. I think Trump was the opposite. I think he said, if you're mad, then join me because I'm mad too. He didn't promise anything. He never says hey, these are my policies. He goes, if you're angry, well, I'm angry too, and let's be angry together. I think that was his messaging. I really do.
Arlene Houston just posted, Dan, you showed up.
Yeah.
I have a comment about the endorsements. Right now, there is Greg Weisenstein, which isn't up until 2026. There's 10 people.
Wow.
And I talked to somebody, another elected, and she's like, well, they want to get out in front so they can get the endorsements. I mean, Tracy Caruso has already filed for Mike Russo's seat. And then I don't know if you want to touch on, I'm curious about your thoughts on the accident today, as far as the charging of the woman. And also the Aaron Hawkins debacle he was the candidate against Gail Harrell. He got arrested for,
I didn't see that.
selling
Tuesday
drugs.
night.
Oh, I didn't know
He
that.
got out today.
They've been watching.
Still
since
aside,
December of
But-
twenty twenty-three though.
Oh.
Psychedelics and weed, and he's on film.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Um,
Well, I hate to comment about a case I don't know anything about,
Well,
but
just in general, like what, because you
Yeah.
said earlier about people are in, like poor people are in jail for
Oh,
weed.
yeah.
And, rich people can.
yeah, I can tell you
He's
this.
selling, so it's a little, that's.
I can
becomes
tell
a
you-
Felony.
I can tell you this, my position on bail has always been not that that we can or that we would ever get rid of monetary bail completely, but that it's been unfair. And I got attacked for that by a lot. I still believe in it. I didn't retract what I had said just to try to smooth myself out. I really do believe that poor people should not be in jail because they're poor. No more than rich people should be out because they're rich. So those issues really, of course, matter to me. I can tell you that the bond lobby, holy heck, I mean, it is super strong in Florida. And I can tell you that the bondsmen themselves give a lot of money to campaigns because this is a huge issue for them. So if you look at those financial disclosures that are all public, you will see, like in the state attorney race, every bondsman in Palm Beach County gave to every candidate that was running for state attorney because that's their living. That's how they make money. That is how they survive. And I appreciate it's a business. It is a business. And I don't say that they're unethical for being bondsmen. What I say is that you shouldn't be in jail on low-level nonviolent stuff because you don't have $100. That's what I say. So, I'm glad Aaron got out. We'll see what happens.
Get a $14,000 bail.
So just so you know, the way it works with bondsmen is that they basically, you give them 10% of that, and then they'll post the surety as the insurance agent, essentially.
What's the lowest bond?
Oh,
Can it go to?
just no money.
Nothing.
Yeah, just like
That's
you're
like
on your own
own-
recognizance.
Yeah.
But so then what would be the next?
Whatever the judge says. Well, supervised release. So there's a county entity that will supervise you. So you'll check in with them once a week. You'll have to phone in. You'll have to do drug tests. So there's supervision. And then the next one is just whatever monetary value number the judge comes up with. Now, I've always said, if you're really worried about people not committing more crimes and doing bad things, the supervision is the way to go, right? So think about it. The guy who, let's say, sells drugs and the judge gives, it's called SOR, supervised on your own recognizance, supervised release. He has to do certain things to stay out, right? He has to check in, he has to do drug testing, he has to make sure that he shows proof of employment, blah, blah, blah. The guy who can just post the monetary bond is under no supervision. He's just out and about doing his thing. So it's a misnomer to say that if you're released on money, you're more likely to stay out of trouble and come back to court, which is the whole purpose of bond. It's actually the opposite. And there's studies that show that. There was an FSU study that was commissioned here locally when they compared lower level people who were released on bond versus others. And the money piece did not correlate to appearance or lack of future criminal behavior. The money didn't do anything. So it's just a business. It just really is. And that's why, by the way, I didn't get any bondsmen to support me. And I was fine with that. I understood why. I got it. But they fight tooth and nail to keep it just the way it is because it's a big money. And they spend a lot of money and they put a lot of money into PACs and they lobby hard in Tallahassee. So that's one obstacle that we have in our courts. Now in like Pennsylvania, New Jersey, they got rid of money bond altogether. Now, again, unfortunately, certain Republicans seize on that and say, well, look what's happening in those cities. Crime's exploding. It's not because of money bond, it's not because all those people are not in jail and that's why out there committing new crimes. It's more complicated than that. But those are easy talking points. You
Is
know,
there some crime that you wouldn't get bond for?
like the most serious, like the homicides and armed robberies, first degree felonies that are really violent. Yeah.
So they would get.
Yeah. But that's never been my focus. I've always focused on sort of the low level stuff, the stuff where if you had $250, you go home. If you don't, you stay in jail, you know?
What happened with the accident today, Dan?
All I heard from some deputies was that, and I took my 13-year-old to the doctor's, his annual whatever, out at Palms West, which is Southern Boulevard near Lion Country Safari. And when we were driving back into town to drop him off at school, we saw just 15, 20 police cars just zooming west. And he kept saying, Dad, Trump must be in town. And I was like, he's like, Trump's not in Belgrade. I promise you that. So that can't be it, buddy. I was like, it can't be. So then, of course, when we got in, I saw what happened. I don't know all the facts. I don't know what the driver allegedly did.
She overcorrected as well. I work with a sheriff's wife,
Yeah,
and she said that she overcorrected.
yeah, it's tragic.
Somebody was in front of her. They were on the grass. They were not on their bikes.
No, that's
It's
horrible.
pretty crazy that
What,
she could
what,
pick
what
up
happened?
3 people.
What,
She-
someone-
3 motorcycle deputies, I guess, were effectuating a traffic stop of some sort, and this driver careened into them.
They had a motorcycle. They had one guy's motorcycle battery was dead.
Yeah,
So he called for help. So they were on the side of the road. They were doing just normal
Yeah.
radar and traffic
Oh.
stuff. And they were on the grass on the going east. So the grass is not that wide on that side. It's much wider on the other side, on the Arden side. And there's a canal right past.
yeah.
There's the guardrail, but there's also a canal. I had just put a bunch of signs out there, so I know that road.
I think it killed the 2 of
Um,
them instantly.
Yeah, and then the other,
Yeah,
there's PPSO, there are 3 of them died.
yeah. Oh, the third one did die.
That's what, that's what,
No, not the two.
They-
Two dead.
my friend whose husband is a sheriff said they were all.
And
Horrible.
what's the deal with the driver? Do you know
They didn't
anything
start
about?
archery yet.
What?
I don't think start archery yet. My
We
husband's,
know
in-
anything
listen,
about
my
it.
husband's in
She's a
the,
girl.
My
I mean, it's a girl, a woman.
No idea what age or anything.
my husband was called to the scene
Oh,
because he's in the honor band.
Yeah.
for the sheriff's department.
yeah,
And they escorted the officer that was, well, 2 officers actually went to Good Sam,
yeah.
but they escorted.
The-
They went to St.
Because
Mary's.
that's a trauma.
No, Good Sam.
No, they went to
They
St.
would go to
Mary's.
St. Mary's, they wouldn't take it.
It's a trauma center.
Yeah.
They went to St.
My
Mary's.
believe me,
Good
I
for
am.
them, might be.
All right, well, anyway,
It's-
I heard before I left the house.
I know.
today that Blake got killed.
I know they shut down the access to the jails today and all that stuff. It's horrible. You know, people think, well, defense lawyers must not appreciate police. Couldn't be farther from the truth. We respect law enforcement. We care about them. Obviously, when there's law enforcement officers that aren't doing the right thing, we speak up and say something. But that's true for any profession, you know? So I know we had sort of a moment of silence today, and we wish nothing but the best for those families that were affected. Yeah, it happened around 9 or 10 o'clock, because like I said, I was on the road, and it was shocking the number of vehicles that were like driving, the police vehicles that were driving in
Yeah.
one direction all at the same time. I really thought there was like some sort of terroristic attack.
Yeah.
I couldn't figure out what was happening, and nothing was on the news until about 11.
Jeez.
Yeah,
Hey, Dan.
yeah.
Question. I'm curious about the capacity of your
Sure.
office to handle the workload, you know?
Yeah.
I'm a TV guy, you know, so I
Uh-huh.
see all these public defenders
Yeah.
on TV that come in with, you know, all the files.
Yeah.
On the floor. Well, you got 30 seconds, what's the story?
Well, years ago, I decided, I convinced Carrie we need to go paperless. So you'll never see us with files anymore. We're all on computers now.
That's good.
Because I used to carry all those damn things, and it'd be really hard. So now it's all on a laptop. But it really depends jurisdiction to jurisdiction, and it depends on, I think, on the health of the office, but also on funding. So we're fortunate enough to where we are fully staffed. And hopefully we'll keep it that way. But I know there's other offices that around the country that we interviewed a woman who wants to work with us yesterday, and she did an internship in Mecklenburg County, which is North Carolina,
Yeah.
Charlotte. And so she told us that the average lawyer there had 350 clients. And I thought that was shocking. So our average is about 75 or less. So we do okay. Obviously, we want it to be lower, as low as it can be, because the less cases you have, the more attention you can give to every single one of them, and that's what they deserve. But it could be a lot worse.
And then what about on the supervisory release? Is there enough capacity to handle, let's say you really did get rid of monetary bond for the low level
Sure.
misdemeanors? Is there enough supervisors to supervise their release?
Oh, I got your thing. Well, you mean in terms of the county
Yeah.
supervisors? Yeah, frankly, they don't get paid that much as they probably should. But I think that there's always people looking for those kinds of jobs. So I think they could staff it if they had more people to supervise. But I don't think we're gonna get there,
Okay.
unfortunately. I just,
Well, I just hate that to be the reason why, there are
That's
other
not
ones
why.
that we can't do it.
that's not.
Judge Forrest was praising your people.
Oh,
I
good.
was at the jail at the,
Uh-huh.
whatever that's, first appearance.
First appearances, yeah.
Yeah. and he
Yeah.
was talking about how hard and how great that, they are, have the great representation from your office.
Yeah, we take a lot of pride in it. So like this interview process, it can go all year. But we're getting applicants from Stanford and from NYU and from NYU was yesterday and Georgetown was the day before and Howard, another great historically Black college up there in DC. So they want to come. That's what I would hopefully leave you with. If there's one thing maybe it'll make you feel good tonight is there are still a lot of good people out there, a lot of young people
Yeah.
out there that want to do meaningful, good work that will help society as a whole. They really do. And these applicants are amazing. They're better than I was coming out of law school. I didn't know anything. These
So
people,
humble.
it's true. I did like one internship in Lake City, Florida. I was like, I know kind of what I'm doing. These people have done multiple public defender internships, multiple innocent projects where they're working with people who've already been convicted, trying to undo the conviction where they feel like racism or bad defense work led to an unlawful verdict. So they're out there. I promise you, they're out there. Don't lose faith that there's really good young people that want to do good work and help us all. But it is easy to forget that or not see that when we think about some of the nonsense that's happening and about to happen for the next, hopefully, no more than 4 years. But they're there. There was we interviewed a woman who spent 10 years in federal prison, got out, got a job right away, put herself through college, put herself through law school, got a scholarship to go to law school, and now she's about to be a lawyer. We're hoping to hire her. She told us what happened to her. It was nonsense. The feds totally jammed her up. She should not have got the type of sentence that she got for this drug stuff. I totally believe her when she explains the sort of circumstance. They tried to get her to snitch on bigger fish. She wouldn't do it, and it cost her years in prison. But she would not break her ethical considerations or vows and lie on people. And so she ended up doing an extra 6-7 years in prison. And here she is ready to defend other people who were in the same position. And she's going to be amazing.
They'll believe, they'll really.
She's amazing. You could just tell.
How
So
many of the people that you hired, didn't you have like 45 or 30 new ones that started?
20.
20?
Yeah.
Are they all? Working out?
19 out of the 20 passed the bar. So, because we hire them before they take the bar exam, and then we work with them, train them, and then once the results come out, if they all pass it, we put them into courtrooms. If they don't, we find other things for them to do until they take the exam again, which is every 6 months. But 19 out of the 20 passed. So
Good.
we must have selected good ones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Starting salary.
Our starting salary is, once they pass the bar, I think it's now $76,000. Which is about more than double than when I started 20 years ago.
Yeah.
But in all seriousness, one of my biggest fears is the cost of living here now.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
unbelievable. I don't know, you know, you need like 3 roommates
Yeah.
just to sort of survive as a lawyer in Palm Beach County. So we try to find ways to help them with that and supplement and give them as many raises as we can. Unfortunately, our governor prohibited statutorily for us to give bonuses. That used to be one way to supplement income. So, hey, we can't give you a full-time raise, but we can give you $1,000 here, 1,000. He stopped that. So we can't do that anymore. So there's challenges. There's all sorts of challenges all the time. But I think so long as our reputation stays good and obviously working in Palm Beach is a plus. It's a draw. People are looking to get out of the snow.
Right.
And this is not a bad place to live, thankfully still. I think we'll be fine. People also think, we hope that the state attorney side suffers or struggles. That's not true. I know that I did my best work in trial against prosecutors that were great. And I always felt like they brought the best out of me. And I do think for the overall practice of law, for us to be really good, the other side should be really
Yeah.
good. And so I look forward to sort of them, working in their office and maybe we can get there once again. But, it's not that acrimonious relationship you might think it is. Yes, we fight about cases. Yes, we care about our clients more than anything, but ultimately we respect what they do. And I think they respect what we do.
Mhm.
Honestly, I do.
So I have a student that took a blade out of a pencil sharpener and hurt somebody.
Oh, geez.
He's 15 and 4 or 5 months. That won't be a direct file, would it?
Shouldn't be.
Okay.
So direct file, in case you're not sure what that is, it's essentially the state attorney's office has the discretion to charge a kid as an adult. And there's no judicial review of that decision, which I know has always bothered me. I feel like a judge should have some say in that decision, but just this prosecutor. They have 100% autonomy to decide whether a kid, a 15-year-old, like an Ellen situation, should be charged as an adult, which means adult jail, adult prison, adult convictions, adult everything.
They just move them right to the
Mhm.
adult part of the prison from the juvenile.
Yeah, so I can tell you, like in Palm Beach, we used to rank towards the high end of how many kids were direct filed. Ehrenberg took over. I think we're in the middle somewhere now. I wish we would still be lower because I think the research and the data and the studies all show that kids can change.
Yeah.
Kids can be rehabilitated.
The brains, right.
Their brains change. But if you convict them and if you throw them in adult prison, good luck getting them back. The chance of them being rehabilitated is much, much less. So anyway, yeah, direct file will always be a hot topic, I think, in our court system.
Do you have a certain group of lawyers that take care of those
Yeah.
cases?
Yeah.
That are good with the younger kids?
Yeah, we have a juvenile division. And then on top of that, we have a direct file unit. And so that all they do is work on those types of cases. And the biggest thing is to sort of convince judges that kids should be treated differently. There's a couple seminal Supreme Court cases that came out years ago. Brian Stevenson was the lawyer,
Yeah.
amazing guy. If you haven't read Just Mercy, check him out. He's a hero.
Yeah.
But he essentially convinced the Supreme Court of the United States that even kids who were convicted of stuff that got them life sentences in Florida should be open to parole. That they should a review system. So in other words, you committed a robbery with a firearm when you were 15, the judge gave you life in prison without any chance of getting out. Stevenson argued that was cruel and unusual punishment under the Constitution of the United States. The court agreed. I don't know what the court now would say about that. But then the court agreed. And so now there are built-in reviews, whether it be after 25 years, 30 years, 35 years. These kids have a chance to come back to the same judge or the same court and say or prove that they should be given an opportunity for release. So that was huge, huge, huge. But his whole premise was that kids you should not assume that the 15-year-old will be the same for the rest of his life. And I've been fortunate enough to represent a couple of those kids from Palm Beach, and they did change. They became model inmates. They were teaching other inmates. They were getting their degrees from universities. And so judges did release them, and they've done fine. I think there was only one out of all the ones we did. There was only, I think, one or two that picked up a new charge, and it was really minor stuff. It was like marijuana or something really small. So, life sentences, I mean, unless it's a homicide case and there's a dead body, to me, it's just rarely appropriate, especially for young people. But Florida's bad.
Where he got out,
What's that?
Talmadge, you know what he had, because it wasn't he represented.
Yeah, it was a homicide case.
But he.
But he went, there was just a man who essentially was proven innocent, served like 30 years in prison, a local guy. That stuff happens. The debate on the death penalty, it always, for a lot of people, ends up being a moral question. Should the government kill people? For me, there's even more arguments against it. Mistakes happen.
Yeah.
Mistakes happen. Jurors make mistakes. Lawyers make mistakes. I've done some death penalty work. It's super intimidating. And it took years off my life wondering, thinking, did I miss something? Did I not miss something? Should I have did this better? Should I have done that better? Did I miss a sign in jury selection that this person would be a bad juror? It weighs on lawyers, it weighs on judges, it weighs on jurors. And it can really produce a lot of trauma to all involved, including even the victim's family. It's a pretty horrible experience to go through a trial like that. So thankfully in Palm Beach County, this is all really Carrie and her legacy. We have not had a death penalty recommendation in her tenure, 24 years. And knock on wood, that's actually what she's litigating right now.
Right.
Is we have one last death penalty case in Palm Beach County from the public defender's office that we're defending this guy. And she's litigating right now the fact that he's intellectually disabled, because thankfully now under Florida law, and this is kind of a recent thing too, you can't kill someone who's intellectually disabled. So he's got a pretty low IQ. The state's arguing that
Not low enough.
it's not low enough. And so Carrie's in there fighting the good fight.
What, you know what it is?
For a lot.
It's IQ.
I believe it's 57.
Oh, come on.
And the cutoff is 60.
60,
But the law basically says that it's a combination of IQ and adaptive skills. So
He's a good, yeah.
if you can balance your checkbook and drive a car, you can do things that your average person can do. It sort of, equals out maybe that your IQ is that you're born with is low. That's all nonsense. If you have a
Check the checkbook?
I know.
Well,
It
they're
was-
doing it in Texas with that man that shook his,
Mhm.
The baby.
they
Yeah.
claimed that he shook his baby, and now they don't think that really happened.
Yeah.
He's on the spectrum,
Yeah.
apparently.
Oh, and yeah. And this guy that Carrie's defending also is schizophrenic. So it's like double. He's intellectually disabled and he's schizophrenic. So, but she she's so great. She's going to win it somehow. And people don't realize maybe in Florida, there's no parole for homicide. So if you're convicted of first degree murder, you're spending the rest of your life in prison. And
So
to
we're
me,
like
that should be
Georgia.
enough. Huh?
So we're like Georgia, because they just said that about the
Mhm.
guy who killed the girl, the jogger, that You will never have a chance. to-
Yeah, there is no parole in Florida, zero. There is no parole. The one exception, it's not really parole, are the juveniles that we spoke about. Those that were given life in prison
Right.
before the law changed, they are eligible for review. It doesn't mean they're gonna get out, but otherwise, there is no parole in Florida. If you get a 30-year prison sentence, you're doing 85% of that, and then maybe you're eligible to get out for that last 15%. But if it's a homicide, it's 100%. You're doing 100% of the sentence.
Is the new law with the 8 people have to, it's only 8 instead of
Oh,
a
yeah,
unanimous?
they have to
Is that gonna
decide.
come into play with
Yeah.
the one that Carrie's doing?
Yeah.
Is a jury trial?
Yeah, if it gets there, yeah. So again, it's just Florida, you know. It used to be the jury would not have to be unanimous
Right.
about the death penalty piece. So there's 2 phases of these types of trials, the guilt phase and then the penalty phase. The state has to prove the person actually committed the murder, right? You get past that, then the 12-person jury decides whether they should live or die. It used to be, it didn't have to be unanimous, which was crazy. Then the court said, no, it's got to be unanimous. All 12 people have to be in agreement about the aggravators and the mitigators and the ultimate sentence. Then, with DeSantis's new court, it's back to 8 again. So now 4 people can dissent and say, no, we don't think the state's proven that he or she should be executed, and it could still happen. So it's like every time you take a step forward,
Yeah.
you feel like you're taking a step back. And that's why these judges are so important, you know. We used to have what was called a proportionality assessment by the Supreme Court. So anytime there was an appeal on a death penalty case where the person got the death recommendation or death verdict, the Supreme Court would look and say, well, wait a second. If you compare this guy in Palm Beach that they said he should get it, and then you compare this guy in Jacksonville who didn't get it, well, the guy in Jacksonville's facts were much worse. So we're going to override, and now that's gone. So there's one judge who continues to dissent. He's from Palm Beach County, Judge George Labarga. I used to practice here. I used to be in front of him, and he still dissents every opinion. I concur in the result. I dissent that we should still have a proportionality examination because we should.
But then you can't kill as many people.
That's true. You know, DeSantis has signed more death warrants than any governor in the history of Florida in such a short period of time. And it doesn't even like raise any eyebrows anymore. You don't even hear about it. You don't even hear about it. But that's happening. That's happening. Not just in Florida, but in all other parts of the country too. You know, it's weird. In Ohio, that's where I'm from originally, there's a moratorium on the death penalty. They stopped. Red Ohio stopped. Florida, we're expediting it. So, yeah, I think the days of thinking of Florida as purple is long gone. Not forever. I'm still optimistic, but for now.
Maxwell Frost said, I heard him say, it's a nice way to think of it, that Florida is not a red state, it's an underorganized.
Very underorganized.
I hope he's right.
Yeah.
I hope he's right. I don't know. I know, my advice, or again, just going through this one time, is for Democrats locally and elsewhere to have sort of a long plan. I think we too often try to like turn on the switch a year before the election and we ramp it up and we hope, blah, 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 blah. The Republicans are good at this.
Yeah.
They think long term about how they're going to take away voting rights and how they're going to make sure that people can't vote for Democrats. But they have a long plan, a long view of how to win.
And a lot of money.
Yeah, but there's a lot of money in Democratic. I mean,
We had a lot of money.
yeah, Harris
Yeah,
outraised
she's
Trump.
Yeah.
She raised a ton of money. It's not always the money.
Yeah, no.
I think it's the planning, the organization, like Michael said, the messaging, of course, too. But the idea that we can kind of ratchet up in a year or 6 months is probably not realistic. I think if we start planning to take back Florida, maybe in 4 years, that's possible. But but it's not gonna happen overnight. It's just not. But I'm willing to do my part. I think there's some others that are too.
Well, it's very hopeful what you said about the young people. I mean,
Yeah.
I really think that they're the ones who are gonna have to live on this planet, you know.
And it's funny, the part I left out was I'd ask these applicants, well, why Florida? Don't you want to work somewhere in the north where you have better chances of winning and doing? And they're like, no, that's where you need us the most.
Oh, wow.
The South. The South.
Sim altruism.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wonder. That's
We'll
awesome.
squash it out.
But that's all.
It is awesome.
But that's been part of Carrie's kind of legacy too, is we've had lawyers, leave after 6, 7, whatever years, and then they go run offices elsewhere. In New York, in Cincinnati now, in San Francisco. So it's really cool. It's heartwarming to know that you make an impact on young people, you kind of train them, teach them the best you can, and then they go do the same
Right.
elsewhere. And that's kind of a nice positive message, I think.
Do you have any Republicans in the office?
I'm sure, but they're so outnumbered, they don't say much. I suspect some of our investigators might be, but our lawyers, I don't think so.
Yeah.
Think about the work. It's like, it's very liberal minded work, social workers and holistic approach and social services. It's not their cup of tea. I was told that we should go find a fake Republican to run in my race because then it would have been a closed primary, blah, 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 blah. And I just wouldn't do it. In other words, that way Republicans couldn't have voted in my primary.
Right.
And then I would
Well,
have,
I was worried about that. I remember I told you.
Yeah.
I really, every Republican, if they're gonna vote,
yeah,
who are they gonna vote for?
Yeah.
They're not gonna vote for you.
Yeah.
You got the Tea Party endorsed.
yeah. But I just decided,
I hope I didn't embarrass you.
my ethics were like, I'm not gonna be part of something that precludes citizens from voting. If they want to vote for somebody else, they vote for somebody else. But I'm not gonna sleep well at night knowing that I kept people from voting in an election. That's the opposite of what I believe in. I think we all should vote. Everybody should vote. So in the end, it worked out okay, thankfully. But yeah, there's a lot of weird stuff like that goes on, gamesmanship and plotting and politics is a little bit, yucky at times. It's the best way I could put it. But you have a lot of good local leaders. Ellen's one of them, and Dorothy Jacks. She was unopposed as the property appraiser, and Nancy
Dan?
Ann Gannon was unopposed. So that's all positive. Those are all, and I think the Wendy Link election was huge. She's been a really good
She's been
supervisor
really
of
good,
election.
yeah.
Turned out to be a really good one.
Yeah.
You know, she said this was one really bad appointment.
Yeah, that
right.
flipped on him.
Yeah.
And she won very convincingly. So it shows you that even with the numbers of Republicans that showed out and showed up to vote, that in a lot of those elections, they weren't that close, which means the more qualified person did prevail. And I think that's a good sign too for Palm Beach County politics and government.
Palm Beach County shows us light blue on the map now.
Light blue.
Yeah, it was almost 50-50 in the presidential.
49%.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. So like the state attorney race and the Trump Kamala Harris race, it was like 50-49 or whatever it was. But that's not what it was for Link, and that's not what it was for even Bradshaw or Bruzo. So it just shows you that it wasn't always straight across party lines.
Right.
That and the other piece that I'll just leave you with this, the NPAs. So these are non-party affiliated people. They are a huge section of voters. So it's Democrats still outnumber Republicans in Palm Beach County. But then the MPAs are just right below the Republicans.
Yeah.
So to me, whoever can consistently get those people to come out and support them, that's who's gonna win.
Yeah.
That's who's gonna win. So the Democrats we have got to find a way to connect with those people. Because they ultimately are the ones who are disillusioned with both sides, but they vote, but they are voting. And so how do you connect with those people? And whoever connects with those people, that's who's gonna win elections moving forward.
The difference in Florida was only like 700,000 from Democrats
Yeah.
that voted and NPAs. And we like hound our people to vote, and NPAs came out for 2.8 million,
Yeah,
and we were like 3.5.
yeah. So you win just like an extra 3% of those people, and you're winning a lot of races. I know we advertised, we did a lot towards MPAs. And not every MPA is the same, right? So some are just disillusioned, some don't want to be bothered with stuff, and they only want to vote for like the big ones. But you got to find a way to talk to them because they are super duper important in these races. They really are. I know in my race, because it was again just a primary, so the only people on an MPA ballot was mine and I think the judge race, and that was it. And yet tons of them voted. And I met a few of them after. I'm like, why did you care? And they're like, well, the realities were so little on our ballot that we actually had time to research you. So we took the time and we did it. So it's like just interesting, but you know, they are out there, and I think they do vote and they do care. It's just a matter of how do you connect with them and make sure they're voting for more Democrats than Republicans.
It's the messaging. You know, I mean, I hate the people that say, oh, I vote for the man, not the party, you know. You can't tell the difference between the party that, you know, thinks climate change is a Chinese hoax and then the other that think, you know, I mean, I really, you know, I almost prefer a Republican, you know, that is, you know, an out and out fascist or to somebody that's, well, I don't know, you know.
But it falls on the candidates too. You know, I kept hearing over and over from other candidates, well, I'm going to win the Jewish vote. I'm going to win the female vote. And it's like, I never looked at it that way. I never looked at it like there's a block that I was strictly talking to. My hope was that anybody and everybody could sort of jump in and say, yeah, I think he's the most qualified for that particular job. You know, to me, it was always about who, you know, it's like me giving you my resume, and then the voter decides if I'm going to get hired or not. That's the way I looked at it. Not this sort of like, well, if I can win 30% of the female block and then I can pull 20%, maybe that's how it works, but I wasn't going to campaign like that. It just wasn't for me. But I know others do that, and they would ignore blocks of votes. And I didn't get it. I didn't understand why they focus so much on demographics instead of issues and just sort of speaking from the heart. But Ellen did, so she won convincingly.
Exactly.
Vice president.
Are you? Congratulations.
But we worked hard. You worked hard. I respect the work and the fact that you were authentic. So authentic.
Total.
And
Yeah.
if we could, like Alex Soros said, that we didn't recognize Trump as a super candidate, and that we don't focus on candidates.
Yeah,
We focus on money.
yeah,
And I've been saying this for such a long time, that we need to vet our candidates better.
yeah.
So that we just don't plug anybody in, you know, because everybody was, oh, we have somebody in every race. Well,
Yeah.
What? So what?
and they take away, you know, those people that don't have a chance, take away from the people that are working, the
Yeah.
resources, the manpower,
Yeah,
woman power. But I really think that if we would look at the candidates better and vet them, that we would have a better, you know, any blue won't do.
you know.
And I don't think we can sell that
Yeah.
either. You
I
know,
don't
oh,
think so, yeah.
he's Democrat vote for us, you know, I was lucky because I was nonpartisan. And it's so much easier. I got to stay away from the crazy on this side
Yeah.
and the crazy on that side. And I feel like Republicans really, I got a lot of Republicans.
Yeah, I'm sure you did. I think that's true. I think, you know, the MO in Palm Beach County has been for so long that the party stays out of primary fights, right? So if it's two Democrats, let's not pick either one and see whoever comes out as the winner, and then we'll just support that person. But I'm kind of with Alan. I think if there's clearly a more qualified candidate who has a better chance of winning, I think the party should play some roles, like either have a conversation with that second person and say, not this time. We'll support you on the next one, maybe if there's a better race for you. But, you know, I think the candidates do matter. And it can't just be whoever it is with that little D is who we're gonna support ultimately. You know, the Republicans don't do that. I mean, they vet them and they kick them out. Hey, not your turn this time, bud.
Right.
We'll get you next time. And so that's why I think they do a little bit better with some of the local races.
And then we have the ridiculousness in Del Rey, like I just looked her up. She was gonna run for commission and then she dropped out. She is Republican and I like her. As they come, and I looked, when she was gonna run, she switched to Democrat. And I looked her up just the other night and she's still a Democrat, and she is not a Democrat. Like, I'm sorry, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Well,
Yeah,
I
mean, you know, you can just switch and people do that.
Totally.
Races.
Totally.
I'm not gonna say.
But I was told by a judge years ago.
Kelly Page, but this person was even more blatant than that.
I was told years ago by a judge, I was like, Judge, I know you're not a Democrat. I know you're not. So why are you? He's like, because I want to win. You know, he said to win in Palm Beach County in the 80s and 90s, I had to be a Democrat. So I registered as a Democrat. But that's why, again, I think Nancy and Ellen's point is, if you just focus on that, you're going to be misled because there's a lot of Democrats who are they are running as Democrats who do not have democratic values. And there are sometimes Republicans who actually have democratic values. So you do it's getting complicated. I remember growing up here where the county commission spots were nonpartisan. You know, that was kind of like a fun time. You had to care enough to research the candidates. And I guess Delray is still like that. It's nonpartisan. But and I guess did the school board initiative pass where, so they were trying to make that partisan as well.
Anyway, like I was like, what's the difference?
I know.
Everybody
It was
talks about he's a Republican.
But
He's the best one, or he's.
But for the less informed voter, and you're looking at the ballot and you see D or R, that's what we're talking about. So I'm glad it didn't pass. I really am.
Riviera is gonna be in court tomorrow. That's why I was late. I was like so shocked at the mess that Riviera Beach is having. Doug Lawson paid for his qualifying fee with a credit card.
Oof.
And a couple other people did also.
Oof.
So they're all going to court
There's
tomorrow
always stuff in that.
to try. Well, I mean, Julie Botel,
I
she
know.
paid late. I'm like, you didn't learn? And so there's been a lot of juxtapositioning with, once they found out that he had paid with a credit card, somebody jumped from like District 3 to District 5. But it's like,
This is for the next election already?
it's for the municipal in
March.
25, in March. So there's at least 4 people that are gonna be disqualified, and
Unbelievable.
I didn't hear the rest of the story, but I was like, seriously? So my guy
I'm not ready for more elections. I don't know about you.
No.
I'm not ready for March yet.
No, and we get a pass next year in Delray.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Why?
No, we
Well,
don't
then,
have
no,
any
not-
until
no race.
26. We don't
Yeah.
have any.
Oh,
Yeah. 2 years ago, there were 2 candidates. Last year, there were 3,
Oh.
vice versa. And
Okay,
then this is the past year.
That's
And I
good.
don't think Rob's
We gotta
gonna run
buy.
again.
You don't think, well, he's not having fun.
Oh, he's not.
so 26 will be the next Delray election.
Royal Palm's interesting too.
Yeah, that was sad that Royal Palm Beach mayor died. Not long after he won.
Oh, right, yeah.
And now his wife is running
Yeah,
in a 3-way race.
yeah.
So for me, I think I'm mixed up now.
At least DeSantis doesn't get to a point. That's what I was worried about, right? When it happened, like, oh no, no. But no, they're gonna have a full.
Beat for the Senate. I think he's gonna see who gives him
Yeah,
the best promise or the best deal.
yeah.
Maybe.
His law is also coming back to bite him with the vote by mail expiration. Other things in that law are hurting him, and that's a good thing.
Anything that hurts me.
Um,
As a teacher, I can say that.
I,
I think he should nominate himself and get him out of the state.
Yeah.
Well, it's still, he may still. I mean, there's still talk about that. He
Oh,
won't.
and that would be a smart move for him. I mean, he's
Totally.
turned out here, and then it sets him up for 2028. He can say, well, I've been a senator, I've been a great
Congressman,
governor.
Well, he's congressman, governor, senator.
Yeah, no, but he's got a squeaky voice and he's 5
he's
foot.
not personable.
No, and he's the same height as little Marco. And
Well,
I'm
he's not
telling you,
doing so bad.
you Google the heights of presidents.
I know.
Going,
they're all
you have to go
small.
back to Martin Van Buren. Harry Truman was the only other one that was that. I mean, Americans are stupid. If someone's tall and they're gonna vote for it. But
I'm not convinced anybody can do what Trump does. I think he's one of a kind. I think all these Republicans are lining up to be the next Trump. I don't think there is
oh
another.
no, that's right. That's right. No.
I don't think they can. Vance can't pull it off.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't think so.
You don't think they can be scummy enough?
No. No. But it's not just scummy. It's like he was a celebrity. He was a TV star. They love that. And none of these other guys have that type of whatever you want to call it.
It's not great.
I hope it's.
Yeah.
Charisma. No way. I don't think so. I don't think there's anybody else like him.
Thank
Thank God.
Unless his son, maybe his son.
Nah, I don't think they could do it either. I don't think so. No. No.
We're lucky.
Sure, posted about, oh, no, you emailed it to me about
Oh,
the
yeah.
thumbs.
What?
TJ reached in his pocket and rubbed a little coke on his gum.
We don't know if it was.
Oh, well, they think it was. They said he has a pretty good habit.
Who?
Got you.
Oh, yeah, oh, okay.
Oh, he is on coke. John Junior. And then Guilfoyle.
I thought he was picking his nose when I saw the picture. I thought he was picking his nose.
The biggest.
In the video, they reached in his pocket.
Oh, I didn't see
Yeah,
that
I
video.
heard that.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Pretty good.
We should.
And that was in SpaceX launch of all
Yeah.
places.
Yeah, we should let Dan go home.
Yeah, I was just gonna say. that.
Oh,
Yeah.
anytime.
Yeah,
Thank you
no,
again. I
it's
just want to
great.
thank you again
Yeah.
so much. We won't let you down.
Yeah.
And I'll let Michael know when we're having a retirement party for
Oh,
Carrie.
great.
And
Yeah.
if you guys would want to come, and then we're gonna have like a little swearing in for me too in
Great.
January. I'll let you know.
Yeah.
Up
Yeah.
in Palm,
Yeah.
West Palm.
Yeah.
And keep the faith. Keep the faith. Sure.
Did you see the?
We still have some chocolate left.
Somebody,
That's nice. That's nice. Okay.
Okay. Dan, thanks so much.
Oh, thank you, my friend. Thank you so much for all your help.
Yeah,
I appreciate it. Have you heard from Frankel at all?
No, no, I mean, and he's.
Nobody's up.
Yeah.
He must be planning something.
It's the fourth wall.
Yeah.